welcome to another episode of a Podversation with. I'm your host, Josh Paladini. This is episode 3, featuring the hilarious, ingenious, always entertaining Steve Walsh. Steve's a great host, a great comic, and a great dude, real deep, real interesting. So check it out, enjoy. Thanks for tuning in.
TV.
All right, so we're here with Steve Walsh.
What's up, dude?
That's Steve. I'm Josh. All right, so let's just get into it, man. Did you always want to make people laugh?
Yeah. Since I was a kid, man, I was always the goofball at family parties, doing that whole thing. Getting up because I had a real big family on my mother's side. My grandmother had 8 siblings, so lots of aunts, lots of uncles. They were always together for the holidays or whatever, and I would always get up and do whatever goofy thing I could do. You know what I mean? Because I was making the adults laugh. I knew I was like getting somewhere. You know what I mean? Because there were like these older Italian ladies, outside of Boston. So like a laugh out of them was like a big laugh, and it was like one of the coolest things, like earliest memories I had of like actually entertaining people. So I guess it kind of started there. I was like 4, like earliest memories, being a little shit, at holidays.
So it was like the idea, like more of spreading joy, like than any kind of.
It was 50-50, man. I think the act of entertaining and all that, but then also like as a young little person, you know what I mean, kind of like having that control, you know what I mean, like that command over a room. Who, like, if I wasn't being like a goofball and being silly, I probably wouldn't get any attention. So I like getting that, and so kind of pulling those strings with the older people, and figuring out from an early age kind of how to do that.
Oh, that's cool, man.
Yeah.
Do you remember like the first stand-up comedy that you saw?
That's tough to say, man. Like the first stand-up comedy that I saw, or the first stand-up comedy that like I really kind of latched onto.
The first that you saw.
Right. So that would probably be like the very early days of Comic Relief with my dad. Watching those. Like Billy Crystal, Robin Williams, Whoopi Goldberg. Just watching them come on stage and do their thing and do that, and just watching like my dad's reaction to it, and him loving that. So yeah, I'd probably say those 3 back in the day. Not comedy. I mean stand up. Comedy itself. Like remember it was maybe 5 or so one Christmas night, watching The Return of the Pink Panther with my dad. And seeing Peter Sellers do that. That was like my first moment in comedy where like I laughed so hard like I was crying. You know what I mean? I didn't know what the hell else was going on in the room, and that's all that matters, that I was sitting there with my dad listening to this shit go, watching these geniuses of comedy just dive in. So that's first comedy, first stand-up. I'd say would probably be Comic Relief.
What was the first stand-up that latched on?
That would be Carlin, George Carlin. His album, at Carnegie Hall, that one. My family and I would always take these long road trips, growing up outside of Boston. My mom would make it a point during the summers and all that to take us up to New Hampshire. So it was long drives, 2.5-hour drives. My brother and sister would be listening to, whatever music they had in their Walkman way back in the day. And I had that on tape. And I think I was like 12, maybe. I was young, and just listening to that and just listening to Carlin over and over and over, replaying all my favorite jokes. By the time I got into high school, I had the whole thing memorized, and just like riff on that with my friends. And like, Steve, do the tubes joke. Tubes, country's going down the tubes. You know that bit? Yeah. So that was the first one that really snagged me. Really.
And you got turned on to Carlin through your family?
It just kind of happened. Like I don't know how that tape ended up in my. Because it's certainly not something my parents would have approved of. They just knew that I was in the backseat laughing my ass off, but I don't think that was anything out of the ordinary for them. You know what I mean? Like I could have just been looking at something out the window. So I don't really know how I got turned on to him, but it just happened one day, and just crazy, just listening to him do his thing. And like I just didn't see the actual video of it for years and years and years later, so I would just like be making it up in my head, like what's he doing now, like where is he on the stage? And it's obviously this monstrous stage, and as a kid just kind of filling all those gaps in, and kind of using your imagination to figure out what he was doing was, I think, kind of part of the magic, if you will, of the whole thing, kind of seeing that come together.
Was it excuse me, did you take any notice of the fact that like he was an entertainer that wasn't smiling or trying to be, was that what resonated with you?
Yeah,
or?
absolutely, man. Like, kind of growing up where I did, and like I grew up in Lowell, Massachusetts, which is like this mill city. It's where the Industrial Revolution started. Very, very, very blue-collar town. Not a lot of happy people there. You know what I'm saying? Good people. It's a real upstanding kind of crowd there. But life was always very difficult for a lot of people. So to see him being, sort of that dark, sarcastic, but incredibly smart, like asshole type, was something that I connected to right away. And I think still kind of relate to that a lot. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not like a depressed guy, but I'm pretty dark, you know what I mean, and can be kind of an asshole sometimes, So
there's definitely an edge to your material and to your approach and stuff, which I would I could see the influence most definitely.
Yeah.
Was it something that you wanted to do at that point, or?
Yeah, man. Definitely. Like I'd start to see more comics do it, and another little tangent here, but my mother and grandmother, back when my dad would be out at work, my grandmother lived with us, they would spend Saturday nights with their cup of tea watching Evening at the Improv.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that was always a big thing. It was Caroline's Comedy Hour followed by Evening at the Improv. So I'd sit there with them and just watch hours of people doing stand-up and going bananas on that. And again, like, same scenario, watching them just laugh so hard. Like, people who had a difficult life who would just release in comedy, you know what I'm saying, just laugh and like almost piss their pants. It's something that I grabbed onto real quick. So that by the time, God, I think it was 18 when I first was able to even get into a comedy club. I went to see it with, it was back in Boston at the Comedy Studio in Harvard Square. I don't know if you know. It's one of those clubs. If you ever get to Boston, check it out. It's like Conan O'Brien got to start there, and like Louis C.K. used to be in there all the time. It's like one of those clubs, So I was able to get in, and then within a few weeks, I was up. I was trying to perform, trying to do that. But it was good times.
Now, as you mentioned in your act, you were in show choir, and was theater, was that just another way for you to have fun, or was there ever like a focus shift where you were thinking more about doing theater and less about doing comedy? Or?
Well, theater was, that's how I got my stage legs. You know what I mean? I did my first play in the 7th grade, in Catholic school, did that whole thing. And that was awesome. So I started performing in theater when I was 12, and I did that all the way through high school. I was always in some sort of a show. I was doing dinner theater during the summer. I was directing plays at high school. I was in show choir. Really anything I could do to get on stage, I would do it, So it's weird. Like, there's kind of a weird harmony for me between theater and stand-up. You know what I mean? I feel like you can get cast in a play, rehearse for it for several weeks or however long you're doing it, then you do all those performances, whereas in comedy, you write your act, you practice it, and you're up there for 5, 10, 15 minutes, and I kind of started to realize that same rush that would take me weeks to get to, through rehearsal and through all these different performances and theater, I could get crammed into one small set, you know, like I said, like a 5 to 10 or whatever. That same adrenaline rush would be there, and it was all mine. You know what I mean? It was my act, it was my directing, it was my writing, it was me performing it. So it's kind of cool. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, definitely.
You know, so it was fun, you know, and I liked having that pressure too, like, you know, because if you're in a shitty play, it's really easy to blame it on something else. You know, it could be a bad script, you know, it could be a bad director, it could be, you know, your cast sucks. You have a shitty set, whose fault is that?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's your fault. You know, I loved that. I loved having that kind of accountability and, you know, putting myself through that kind of roller coaster, you know what I mean? Because when you nailed it, and that was you, and that was all you. You know what I mean? When you bombed, okay, well, let's figure out what happened, you know, what went wrong, and, you know, go do it again, you know? So, and it was cool, too, because back in the day, well, I'm not old, but, you know, 18, 34 now, you know, we didn't really have, like, the ability to record our sets the way that we do now. You know what I mean? Like, back then, it was like these, you know, those VHS, not VHS, but the cassette recorders. You know what I mean? They're battery powered.
Yeah, with the handle on top and the orange record button.
Right.
Yeah,
you know, and what kind of an asshole is going to bring that into a comedy club? You know, you're gonna be disruptive. You're gonna be a dick. So it was like really hard to kind of like hone your material back then. Whereas now you just, you know, whatever, you take out your phone. I'm a big fan of recording my sets. And,
of course.
I mean, I got my tripod all the time, so I always like to watch it or at least record it with the audio on your phone. But that's so easy, you know. Back then, you didn't really have that tool. You know, it was like a tripod and like a big ass VHS, so nobody really did it. You know, it wasn't really, you know, you just go up as much as you can and remember as much as you could, and, you know, do it that way.
All right, so let's stay just on like stand up. So you said the first times you got up was when you were 18?
Yeah.
It was at what was the situation like at that club? Because I know that open mics sort of developed, like as people know them now.
Yeah.
As you know, developed very slowly over time. So, was that the situation at the comedy studio?
No, the studio, that was. Let me back up. So the very first time I went up, I was actually working tech for the Merrimack Repertory Theater. So working backstage. That was like a union theater, like top-notch actors coming in and out. And, you know, one of the guys who was in the show was like, hey, my girl's doing a new talent night at the Comedy Connection in Boston, in Faneuil Hall, which was like this huge room, you know, and
that place I've heard of.
Yeah, I mean, that was like the spot to be, you know, so I figured, hey, why not? You know, the first time I went up, you know, was... So I'd seen comedy at the Comedy Studio.
Okay.
But they book like months in advance, you know, like the guy in charge there, Rick Jenkins, still in charge, still owns the place. He's amazing, you know, he'll give anybody a shot. Email him, say, hey, I'm a comic, I want to get some time. He'll put you up on like a Sunday 3-4 months down the line, you know, because that's how just booked up he is. So I had that in the works, and then heard that somebody was going to be going to the Comedy Connection to do a new talent show, and I should go. So I did, and I had 6 minutes. My ass was off the stage in about 2.5. It was so fucking bad, dude. 18-year-old me, man. And back then, too, I had, like, long hair and, like, a bandana. Like, I was just figuring myself out, you know? And I got up there, and I was like, yeah, you know, I've seen comedy so much growing up. It looks easy. Why not? You know what I mean? Didn't really prepare much. I just had, like, a couple of topics in my head. And it was the worst thing I'd ever done. Like, it was so fucking bad, man. I could get up there, and... like a level of vulgarity was coming out of my mouth that like I didn't even think I was capable of. You know what I mean? Just because I was nervous, you know, and like people were groaning. It was bad. And then, dude, because I was such a like I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I just knew that I had to get somewhere, right? So I go up to the promoter. You know what I mean? Because like I know I sucked, but whatever, you know. I went up to the promoter, the booker of the Comedy Connection in Boston. And was like, hey, so when can I come back? He's like, I guess never, you know, would be the answer. But he was nice about it. He's like, you know, why don't you go work on some stuff and, you know, come back in, you know, a few months and, you know, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, it didn't go very well. And I actually never ended up going back to the Comedy Connection. They closed several years later. So, yeah, that was that.
Did, how long between that performance and the next time you got up on stage?
It was a couple of months, because I booked that first show at the Comedy Studio, knowing that it was going to be about a good 3 or 4 months before I went up. Did the Comedy Connection. It was such a bad experience, but I think that's the good thing about starting when you're so young, is that you're really resilient. You kind of bounce back and you're like, I'm a kid. I'm supposed to fuck up. You know what I mean? That's what this is for.
Mm-hmm.
So I really kind of learned a deep lesson about that, and went back with went to that next show with actual material, actual prepared stuff. Still kind of goofball 18-year-old stuff. Like dick jokes and like a comic.
Do you remember any of it?
Oh yeah, man, absolutely. I had so one joke that people really liked was the I at the time I had this apartment in Lowell, not a great apartment at all, and my bed window. So it was, the window's here, my bed is directly in front of it, and the foot of the bed is like maybe 2 or 3 feet away from the window. There's a 3 or 4 foot gap between houses, and it's little like Puerto Rican. It's a Puerto Rican family, and their kids' room is right there.
Okay.
So one morning I woke up after like a bender and all of that, and not wearing any clothes or whatever, and I hear these like little Puerto Rican kids laughing because they seeing my shit. Like I'm laying there like spread eagle, and I got this idea. I was like, maybe they're laughing because my balls are so big. I was 18, So I was like, I'm gonna create the superhero Los Testilos Giganticos. And his superpower was flying around the city just smashing shit with his nuts. And that was like one of my first bits, and it worked out, So I would do that a lot. And another one was, like a lot of dick jokes, like there was no Food Network at that point. Like there was, cooking shows were a thing, you know what I mean? But Food Network hadn't blown up to be this thing. And I was like, wouldn't it be cool if there was like a network completely dedicated to cooking shows? Because I'd have my own fucking cooking show, you know what I mean? And it would be, I'd cook all these kinds of things, I'd make bread, I'd make pizza, I'd make pies, but I'd make it with one utensil and one utensil only. And that's my cock. The name of the show is Cooking with Cock. And I would do the whole thing. And I did. I like bounced around. Those were like my so I ended up getting booked at a few places around Boston. This guy, so remember, this is back like, God, late 90s to early 2000s, and I was still kind of like just a douchebag, just douching around, trying to get ahead. And there's a place in Boston, just outside of Boston, called the Grill 93. Dick Doherty is this big promoter, or he still produces a lot of work, but he had pop-up comedy clubs like all over the state. And this was like a really kind of coveted room, the Grill 93, because at the end, when you were done, no matter how good or bad you did, you'd get a steak.
Oh wow.
Yeah, man. And no matter how good or bad I was, I stuck around for that fucking steak. And this guy Tony V, who he's still kind of he's a pretty big name in Boston now. He started calling me the bread fucker, because I had the Cooking with Cock. The final thing would be to cook the dough, because you got to knead the dough. And it was like this full act out of me basically fucking dough on stage, And he's like, all right, guys, it's the bread fucker. And I was like, in this one performance, I'll never forget it. Like that was not a complimentary nickname at all. And all the other comics were bashing me. And I was sitting in the back like, fuck you guys, like chowing down on my fucking steak. But yeah, I mean, not a good start, but it's memorable and it was fun,
So now at some point you moved to Maine, right?
Yeah.
Were you so from 18, and you were still doing stand up the whole time when you moved? When you moved to Maine, you were. It's
kind of there's a big gap in between all that. Yeah. So I was doing, I was trying to go to school as much as I could. Wasn't really a fan of it because, like, as much as I loved theater and did it a lot, my grades were terrible through high school. Like just kind of rough high school years. So my grades were awful, and I didn't get into any schools for theater. And so basically I ended up going to the school, and my hometown hated it. And by the way, the whole time I was DJing.
We'll get to that.
We'll get to that. But,
most definitely.
We can talk about that later. But this thing that we'll talk about later. So I wasn't too happy with where things were going. So I started acting professionally. I went out and I was like, fuck school, I'm just going to go and get it. And I ended up booking a lot of work, like around Boston, some touring work, doing that whole thing. One thing led to another. I met my wife, who was getting ready to graduate with a BFA in musical theater from Emerson College. We really kind of hit it off, and we moved in really very, very quickly. And right after college, we're like, she graduated, like, let's move to Maine, because she's from Maine. She's like, I know this restaurant, we can waiter there, we'll make like 10 grand a piece over the summer, and then we'll go do whatever you want. We can go spend a few months in Ireland, we can move to London, do whatever, And I was like, yeah, that's a great fucking idea, let's do that. It was just supposed to be 2 months in Maine. And I get there, and I'd never waitered before in my life, and I think it's a noble profession, absolutely, hands down. My ADD brain cannot figure it out. I can't keep orders straight, I can't do any of that. So within about an hour of being at that restaurant, I was like, fuck, I can't do this. And I went into some sort of like shutdown mode and went up to Erin, as my now wife. It's like, I have to leave. And she's like, what, like at the end of the shift? And I was like, no, right now. Are you coming? And she's like, okay. So we left and ended up getting stuck in Maine for a couple of years trying to figure it out. But her family had some bumpy issues, so we were able to be there for them to kind of help them through some tough transition stuff. But so that was my time in Maine.
Did you do any stand up there? Or?
I didn't, man. I just at that point, I'd given up all my, I dropped all my professional gigs, kind of wanted to just focus on being with this girl and sort out my head a little bit. So the biggest thing at that point just became about survival and kind of getting on our feet, all of that. So at that point, I basically stopped. That's when I started the hiatus, the great decade hiatus of not performing in any capacity and just trying to save enough money to move to New York.
During like the break, how often did you think about performing and stand up?
Every day, dude. It was the worst. So, we went from being in Maine, my girl and I, with really no resources. All I had was, my car, basically. And she's a fantastic actor. She's like out of this world, and she basically graduated and went to Maine and did like all the family things and just never used that degree. So like my only mission in life became getting her back to Boston, getting to a point where we were financially stable, preparing as much as we could, physically, basically to get back to theater and acting and just basically helping her get to where she needed to be, So I remember the whole ADD thing, right? Like so I was in Boston. I knew I needed to get to New York. You know what I mean? I had basically done as much in Boston as I possibly could without basically just, repeating steps in theater. So there's really no point in me bothering there. So I had to focus on getting money, clearing up debt, and finding a way to get to New York. So the way my brain works is if I split focus at all, like if at any point during that, and I knew this, if at any point during that I went back to comedy, that would basically be the end of me. You know what I mean? Like I would stop worrying about my plan and my path to get to New York, and I would just focus on comedy. That's all I would want to do. So I just didn't let myself do it. I didn't let myself get anywhere near it, But, took, I planned to do it in 3 years. It ended up taking 8. But we finally made it to New York. And then as soon as we were here, we moved in like the end of March 2011. By September, I was back up, and I was going and going and going, and it was pretty spectacular. It was nice to finally be back. It was like the whole time, man. And any time I'm not on stage, I'm not performing. It's like that feeling you have when you're like you just met the girl, right? The person that you love, and you can't imagine your life without this person. Being that close to comedy and not performing was like knowing that this girl was like a state over. She was really close, but I could never see her. Do you know what I'm saying? Like that inner torture just like ripping me apart. So once I finally got back, it was like, I can see this girl again. You know what I'm saying? So
did you were you writing at all?
I wrote all the time.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like Google Drive was a big thing for me. I have just doc after doc, like hundreds of docs of all these different things. But I realized after getting back into it, if you're writing and not performing, your writing really isn't going to be that good. You know what I mean? It's going to read more like a really wordy monologue and less like a conversation, which it should. You know, so all the writing that I did, I think I've gone back and I've grabbed maybe 10 jokes out of it, but that's out of like this 10-minute, basically worthless rant, you know, that I was just like, I would do at my desk or whatever in Boston. There's like wanting to get back to New York, I'd go off on like the church or like my parents or any of that stuff, you know, and kind of kept going with it that way. But so yeah, I kept thinking about it, always thinking about it. You know, I always identified as a comic, you know, like even in Boston, people are like, so what do you do? Well, I'm in sales, but I'm really a comic. I'm like, well, where do you perform? That's kind of hard thing to explain because like I'm not, but I am, if that makes sense, you know. So yeah.
I see. So because I had wondered how you stayed so sharp.
It was hard, man. Like I had to focus on getting to, you know, to New York, you know, like what was I going to do? You know, like just stop everything and try to hack it in Boston. I know like really some of the most amazing comics come out of Boston, but you know, it's not necessarily because they stay in Boston. You know, you have to be able to bounce around a lot and there's not a lot of stage time to be had there. So just stayed focused and finally pushed through, and I'm glad I did. You know, it was like a real good exercise in self-discipline, you know, and professionalism and just being organized in a way that I like had never really been able to pull off before. You know, like by the end of that time of making it to New York, my brain was so conditioned to doing exactly what I told it to do that oftentimes I would think like, man, if I was this guy in high school, I would have like blown past the SATs, could have gone to like NYU, could have, you know what I mean, all that stuff. And like not in a regrettable way, just realizing that life has a weird way of eventually teaching you what you need to learn. And that big chunk, that 8 years, was really more about, you know, what I had to learn is just being organized and centered and pulling that off, you know. So definitely glad I had that time to do it, you know what I mean, to finally fix that. So
because I'm sure it's helped your stand-up.
Absolutely, man. Yeah.
Focus.
Yep.
All right, let's see. I don't know. Okay, let's talk about 9/11.
Yeah.
And then let's talk about, I guess, September 12th, right?
Yeah,
that
was a big day.
Yeah, it was so.
So again, this all ties into where I was. You know, I was still, you know, the late 90s, early 2000s, you know, people still kind of were clinging to this, you know, false ideal that a degree meant something. You know, that graduating from college meant that you would be okay. You know, and I never really bought into that. I didn't really think there was any weight to that, you know, especially for what I wanted to do. You know, I was studying sociology. I was like, well, that's great. You know, I'm learning a lot about how civilization and, you know, people tick. But I want to be on stage, you know. I want to be an actor. I want to be a performer. So the degree I was going for wasn't helping me, you know what I mean? And it wasn't getting me where I needed to be. It wasn't what I wanted to focus on at all. So by, you know, September of 2001, right? Yeah, I found myself so depressed. Just like, what is this? Why, you know, why am I bothering? This is so bad. And then September 11th happened, and you know, I was in Lowell, still, you know, wasn't going where I wanted to go. I still had, you know, because I fucked around so much on my degree, I still had 2.5 years to go, and I couldn't imagine keeping going, you know. And then that morning, I was supposed to go to school. My grandmother's watching the news, you know, because remember I watched living with my grandmother and my mom and all that, you know, and all this shit was going down. And I remember watching the towers getting hit and recognizing that loss of life. You know, these are people who did go to school, you know what I mean, who did do what they were supposed to do. You know, they were making money, they were supporting themselves, they were literally at the top of the world in some respects, you know, and it was all taken, it was all destroyed, you know. And that loss of life and that kind of humanity just resonated with me so hard. And I turned around and I saw myself just being depressed and miserable and not being where I wanted to be, and decided that, you know, that day I couldn't waste any more time. You know, it had to stop. So yeah, September 12th, I officially dropped out of college, and that's really when things kind of got cool. You know, I started auditioning for everything I could get my hands on, doing more comedy, just ripping it up, and you know, and it went far, quick. You know, I went from being in a place where I was, you know, kind of doing a lot of drugs and wasn't happy to several months later I was working. You know what I mean? I was making money doing theater. There was this cool theater comedy hybrid that was really big in Boston. It's like this dinner theater thing. You know, like Joey and Maria's Comedy Italian Wedding and like Tony and Tina's and all of that. I got into that company in Boston, and they ended up putting me into every production they were doing. So it was like half improv, half script, and all of these different characters. And it was just like the coolest fucking thing, man. You know, I was making $100 a performance, 4 performances a week, and I was like, this is the shit, man. This is the life, you know. And I just started doing more acting and more things. So yeah, the whole September 11th thing, that fucked me up really good. You know what I mean? But I think in the right ways. You know, I don't know. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to ask if it's still on some level.
Absolutely. Does it still affect me?
Yeah.
Like, still think about it? Yeah, you know, and I think it was, especially seeing, it's been what, 13 years? It's been 13 years, you know, since that happened. You know, how much the country has changed, you know, and how much the world has changed since then, you know. Like, think about getting on planes without any real security, you know, like they just do like it's like basically you're going to court, you know. They had the little wands and they'd wave you up and down, and that was that, you know, to get on a plane. And everything changed after that, and obviously the economy took a big shit, and some people just got so, I think, mentally destroyed by the political infusion that happened, and all this forced patriotism and all this shit. So, you know, I saw a lot of my friends sort of branch off. You know what I mean? There was like people who, like myself, didn't really have the best direction in the world. You know, some of us went off and focused more on what really mattered to us and became more driven actors or comics, or, you know, started families or whatever. And then a lot of my friends joined the military, you know, went off and did that. So it was like really this sort of like real clear separation. And I think a lot of guys my age experienced at that time, you know, is that, and those guys have gone on. They've, you know, some are still in the military, some are no longer alive, you know, and that's how that day affected them, you know. So to me now, yeah, it's always going to be there, you know. Like, I still can't watch, you know, the news footage without feeling like that real tightness, you know, in my chest. Like, oh my God, I remember when that actually happened and what it must have felt like to be. And I'm a researcher, you know what I mean? Like, I'll dig into as much as I can. So I did as much homework into everything I could understand about the victims, like the jumpers, and, you know, like over 100 people jumped off the buildings, and their, you know, the religion side of it, you know, was kind of hazy, even though not one suicide has been declared there. And it's just like all these nuances, all these details that happened in one just instant in time in a very, very controlled space that has changed, I think, the world, you know, in a huge way. So yeah, I look back at that a lot and try not to forget it, you know. So they say never forget, you know. Well, that's, I think, a loaded political statement, but for me it was really sort of a turning point in my life. So I don't forget it, you know, because you never know, dude. You know, you could just be going to your shitty cubicle, you know what I mean? Like, you're going to your shitty cubicle to do this shitty job that you don't want to do because you want to get that retirement fund, and you want to, you know what I mean, know that when you're 65, quote unquote, your life can start. And to me, that's such a horrific thought, because someone could go and blow up that cubicle, you know. Like, you're never truly going to be safe or protected. You're the only one who can put yourself in a position where you're as untouchable as you could be. If that makes sense.
Yeah, so we'll go through the jobs in the order that you wrote them on the pre-interview. First, ghost tour guide.
So this is in Salem, Massachusetts. You ever been to Salem?
No.
No? All right. Salem, Massachusetts is, so obviously it's where the Salem witch trials happened, you know, in 1692, 93, which is funny because Salem Village at the time is not, like, Salem now is like a very small, it's like a borough of what Salem Village used to be, you know what I mean? So Salem today is a very touristy kind of a place that all focuses around, like, witchcraft and the paranormal and, and all of that, even though really none of the happenings of the witch trials happened in present-day Salem. Very little happened. Most of it happened in Danvers, which was the town over. You know, you can go to like Proctor's, the Proctor's homestead, you know, John Proctor and all of that. And the witch trials is one of the 19 that was hanged, and it's cool. And the whole hysteria. His house is like this foundation now, like this rock foundation that you could actually go to, but it's in Danvers. And they're like, yeah, fuck you, Salem. Why are you trying to make, you know what I mean? That'd be like if, you know, Germany had like, you know, a carnival set up around Auschwitz, basically. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just wouldn't make sense. It's not reasonable to do that. You know, people got hurt. But anyways, I was a big fan of the paranormal. Always have been. I love it. I think it's really cool. I like that spooky shit. And like I said, I love researching and learning things. So I got involved with a group in Salem, and we just did all the research, all the homework, and picked some really cool haunts, you know, in Salem, and made a lot of money doing that. It was pretty cool. Like, we would get the tourists, especially around like October, but we do it in the summer too. Do a candlelit tour, walking people around like all the haunted places, tell them all the ghost stories, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun, you know. And like Salem still, like I say it's touristy and I badmouth it and everything, but it's like a second home, you know. I loved it there. I love all the history and all that. So that was one of my jobs that I did. I mixed in palm reading at the end of every tour. You know, anyone who wanted to stick behind, I'd give them a 5-minute palm reading for 5 minutes. And especially around the like Halloween, you know, I'd end up walking away with like an extra $90, $100 at the end of the night, because I just stuck around for a few hours doing readings, you know, right near one of the old graveyards. So it was fun. I'd go home to my roommates, be like, what was the take? And I'd be like, I got like $100 tonight. And we'd get some beers, get some pizza, and just hang out, and it was fun. It was definitely one of the cooler chapters, you know, some cool things that went on there.
So you and a bunch of other people like conceptualized the whole thing?
Yeah, I mean,
That's incredible.
It was neat. It really was, you know, because I mean, there are stories everywhere in Salem, you know, like some cool stuff, like I think, I don't know if it's called the Verizon building anymore, but it was the at the time Verizon, AT&T, you know, New England telephone, like, it was all the way back, but it was their main switchboard kind of circuit room, which was built on the, like, very close to the foundation of one of the Salem jails, where they actually kept these people, you know, who were condemned. So, legend has it, you know, that kind of thing. Through the crackly lines, the staticky lines, you could hear people talking and all that stuff. So it was just like these little details that we would, just by researching, we'd find out. And, you know, so imagine that, you know, and I was like wearing like all the black and, you know, long stuff and whatnot, you know, long hair again. Like 50, 60 tourists listen to me talking about ghosts talking through the telephone lines. It kind of seems silly, but like that was, again, like very similar to comedy, you know, but obviously not funny. You know what I mean? But like really captivating these people to the point that like traffic is going by, that they're just still focused, you know, they're still listening and taking it in and having quite the moment with it, you know. So I actually never really drew the parallel between that and the comedy thing like I did just now. But yeah, it was always cool. It was always about that, being the center of attention, being able to kind of guide people's emotions, you know what I mean, take them on like a different journey. And yeah, kind of a neat little parallel there. But that was a fun job. Definitely a lot of fun.
Did you do any like riffing, so to speak, like within the storytelling, or did you? Yeah,
I mean, like I had the facts, you know what I mean? Like there's this cool jailhouse down there. It's not a jailhouse anymore. They converted it to, I think, apartments, like every place does, you know. But it was a jail that Harry Houdini actually broke out of. You know, it was considered to be one of the at the time, the strongest jail in the country, you know, and is there in Salem. And that was like my favorite story to riff off of, you know, because then I could just talk about Houdini and magic and like him, you know, he was the one who was supposed to be, you know, that famous legend that he told his wife when he dies to get like a good spiritualist, and they had a secret word that he would send back to her, you know, from beyond the grave, and she would know that it was him talking And she went through spiritualist after spiritualist after spiritualist. Ended up dying, never getting that word, which was crazy. So that was the fun one. That was the one I got to really kind of play with, and like Giles Corey being pressed to death, and really kind of getting dramatic about it. So there was a lot of riffing, a lot of things that would happen. I'd have the tour itself, we scheduled it to be no more than an hour, but there were times where I'd have people out there for 2 hours, and especially the last tour of the night, like the city's asleep, it's like midnight, it's pitch dark, and just talking with people, and like especially the smaller groups, like 15 people or so, and just walk around and show them like the things that were off the tour, bring them into the old burial point, which is one of the oldest cemeteries in the country, after hours, and be like, this is my favorite grave because of this, and like all the different history associated with the people, So it was definitely a lot of fun.
That's awesome. Strip club DJ.
Strip club DJ. Yes.
What was? You had a DJ name?
No, I didn't have a name. I was Steve.
Oh, okay.
That was it. I DJ'd that parlayed into being a DJ at a gay club, and I did have a name there, which was stupid as fuck. But Stefan, Stefn. They paid me a lot of fucking money though, so I was like, whatever. But they wanted to promote it and put names on flyer. We can't just put like DJ Steve, like that's lame. So we have to give you a name. So that's how that happened.
All right. Well, how did you get the gig at the strip club?
That was interesting actually. I was dating this girl at the time. This is still in college, and she was a very organized, kind of driven girl, and I was not very, like I told you, I was never very organized or focused or whatever, So I didn't have a job, so I never had any money, and like she was the best. She used to like, buy me food and like make sure I wasn't like starving to death, because I would just go days at a time without even like thinking that I needed to eat it or whatever, and fuck it, But she's like, you gotta take better care of yourself, and she would like stock up my cabinets with like ramen and like granola bars and shit. And one afternoon, we're hanging out at my apartment. She's like, if you want to keep being with me, you have to get a fucking job. And I was like, what is that? Like, why, I know you're not a gold digger. And she's like, no, it's just you need to have your life together. And I was like, well, what is a job going to change? How's that going to change anything? She's like, just do it. Get a fucking job. And I was like, oh, yeah, all right, fine. Bust open the phone book, right? I'm like, I'll get a job, like, right in front of her. Call my local strip club. That I think I'd been to like once or twice. Like that wasn't my scene, I knew what the deal was, I called up and I'm like, hey, watch this. Hi there, I'm just calling to see if you're hiring any DJs. And it just so happened that one of the DJs had quit. And she was like, I like, the owner, Mona, awesome lady, like, miss her. She was something else, but this older, kind of large woman, she was the club mother, and making sure the girls knew all the rules and all that good stuff, She's like, I like the sound of your voice. You sound like a real nice guy. And I had just cut my hair, you know what I mean? And I put on my preppiest shirt I had, and I go in there and talk to her, and she's like, I think you're really going to clean up the image of this club. I was like, okay, cool. So I got the job and lost that girlfriend pretty quickly, because that's not the kind of job she meant, but whatever, so that's how I got that job. Just like some random thing that ended up working out, and I ended up staying there for a few years doing that.
So you would like you would announce the girls, yeah. and you would play
whatever they wanted,
the Motley Crue,
yeah. I mean that. So a lot of the 80s stuff didn't really happen, you know what I mean, like anymore. But so this is like early 2000s, so it was like a lot of Limp Bizkit, and 311, and that kind of like, that type of like kind of grungy rock type of stuff. So there was a lot of that going on, a lot of hip hop. And that was funny too, because there were no MP3s or anything back then. All of that was still just kind of being figured out. There were no iPods. So whatever DJ had more CDs was the winner, So I had just cases and cases and cases of CDs. I'd spend half of my income every week going to the record stores, just buying out whatever it is I could get my hands on, and just playing it up, doing it. So yeah, I'd have the music. They'd tell me the genre they wanted, or they'd have their own music, I would do the lights, bring them up on stage, you know, at all these different intros. I'd have to like ad lib in between, you know what I mean? Like if guys weren't tipping very well, I'd have to get on that if they were sitting far back from the stage. So I had like all these dumb lines. You know?
Why?
Oh God, like it was some kind of weren't too nice. So like a hot girl was on stage, right? And all these dudes, older dudes, are sitting there like, oh, guys, take a look at her. Doesn't that make you want to go home and butter the wife's back? You know, that kind of shit. And they're like, what? And I'm like, you know, and the hacky ones like, tipping is not a city in China, you know, and, you know, this girl's trying to pay for three children and a college degree. Get your ass up on that stage. But yeah, like all these different things and try to get them up. And they'd eventually go to the stage, like, you know, I don't know if you noticed, guys, but this girl has been wearing the same outfit for the last 2 songs. This is a strip club, after all. You know what I mean? No money, no honey. Get the fuck up there. So, but so that was that side of it. But then there was also like, you were like the eye in the sky, you know, because the DJ booth is always elevated. They can't really see you. You can see them. So I keep an eye on them, like kick people out for jerking off, you know, for all kinds of things. For trying to set up things after hours, you know. That was the weirdest, dude. Like, and sometimes the creeps would come in, and you know they were told they couldn't come in. The bouncer would be like, "All right, teach them a lesson, Steve." So I would, you know, and they'd sit there with like a cold beer with condensation pressed against their khakis to conceal their boner. And they'd be like, hey, that guy is a premature ejaculator. And he'd be like, what? And he'd stand up and have this big wet stain on his khakis. Like, see? This guy just came all over himself. And he doesn't know how to keep his hands to himself. But I heard he has 3 daughters all under the age of 10. So why don't you go home to your wife, you piece of shit? So it was, you know, you'd play with it. You know, you'd have fun with it. So again, tying in with like the stand-up thing and,
yeah,
you know, always trying to perform in any way I could.
Well, that's why I wrote these 3 down: the ghost tour guide, strip club DJ, and then just sales.
Yeah. The boring shit.
But it just seems that, you know, that there's always some element of interaction and you know,
that's the thing.
The idea that you're using your...
Yeah, I think, you know, like people who go to school, who get a degree, their degree is really sort of their guide. You know, like if you get a degree in finance, you know that you're always going to be pursuing that. My degree, if I had pursued it, would have been in performing, you know. So without having that, I had to make sure that I was focusing on my own major throughout life, you know, and performing and incorporating it as much as I could. So, well, yeah. Funny bit too, I actually don't have any jokes about my strip club days. And people were like, how could you not write about that? It's so hard to like go back through and be like, all right, where is the funny in this? You know, trying to find the funny in something that already happened is a lot different than finding the funny in something as it's happening, I think. You know what I mean? Like, you can't really retrospectively tell jokes. You know?
Honest.
Yeah, I guess, you know, we do a little bit of writing technique because there isn't much there. I'm just going to do what I do, you know. Pass or fail, you know. Then yeah, maybe we talk about. I think it's important too to talk about the different levels of expectations.
Okay.
That happen.
Oh,
you know.
right.
So yeah, like start off in Boston, like I said years ago, and some of these guys are big, you know, and there's some big names out there. I don't want to, you know, do any name dropping, but like that's the kind of thing that'll happen in comedy. And even now, you know, even just after getting back into it. Full time, you know, really about 3 years ago. There are guys who started with me then who are now off, you know, like middling and playing different spots in the country. You know, they're in that place where, you know, there's like this sort of expected natural progression that happens, you know what I mean? Like the different, so, you know, obviously you start off at mics and then you start hosting mics and then you grab guest spots and then it turns into, you know, different road work, and maybe you grab a few festivals, and sometimes you get on TV, and, you know, all those, the different ways of getting there, you know. And I think the hardest part for me in the whole thing, especially over the last few years, and every comic will tell you this, you know, there's no real money in just comedy. You know what I mean? In order for you to make enough money to be even halfway supporting yourself, you need to be at that for a long time. And I don't think you can make more than like mid-teens off of just comedy for some time. You know, at that point you need to be at least a middler, you need to be featuring, you need to be headlining at certain places, you know. So it's really almost impossible to say, and I don't want to say it's totally impossible. I think you can be the best comedian in the fucking world and still not get paid to do it, you know. So it's been kind of cool to watch these guys that I started out with, how they're doing it, how they're incorporating it, you know, like, are they running their own rooms? Are they, you know, a couple have been on TV, you know, you grab one TV spot, you're good, you know, like you're, whatever that is, you know, like some guys been on like Boardwalk Empire or various other, you know, HBO shows, different things like that, you know. So that's what I've been trying to kind of strategize the most is, you know, because comedy, my God, dude, it's like, it's such a precipice, you know, like you get in and then there is absolutely no getting out, you know what I'm saying? And there is no bottom to it. There's no end to it. It's just this unending cycle. So it's not like I'm in, I think, as much as I can healthily be in, you know what I mean? Like a lot of comics will be out doing, you know, 10 spots over the course of a week, you know, Mike, you know, but I feel like that can almost be counterproductive to a very, very large extent. You know, you need to develop your shit. So for me, like I'll try out some jokes just by riffing, you know, because I'll have like 2 or 3 what I think to be punchlines, talk around them, whatever, you know, I don't give a shit if it comes across as rambling or babbling, you know, that's what you have to do to get to your jokes, to get to your set, you know what I'm saying? So out of a 5-minute rambling session, I might get like 2 punchlines, come back, tighten it up around those, and then usually a month, 2 months after that, I have like a cohesive 3 minutes, you know, that I'll pair up with something else that I've already written that's already worked well, you know. But the other side of that is to keep the strategy in mind too. I think, like I said, you know, you can be in there in the trenches on the front lines as a comic, as just a comic, going, and you'll get a lot of guest spots, you know what I mean? You'll get a lot of time throughout the city, but there's no money in it, you know what I'm saying? And if you're in comedy, just comedy for money, you know what I'm saying, or you're trying to make money off of just comedy, you're in for a lot of disappointment. It's not going to happen, you know. And if it does happen, it's going to happen a long time from now, and you probably won't recognize yourself by the time you're done with it, because you'll have had to make so many sacrifices and so many compromises. You'll lose relationships, you'll lose friendships, things will just happen, you know, because you're focusing on that one thing. And I don't think that's wrong, but I think that, you know, as people, it's our nature to be addicted to one thing, you know what I mean, to just see that one part of our life that we want to focus on, you know. But I think it's just like any other relationship, you know, if you focus on just that one part, you know, you're going to suffocate it, you're going to burn it out quickly, you know. So I'm trying to just kind of keep things moving, focus more on acting, some writing, you know, different like voiceover work, commercial work, you know, that kind of thing. And I think that's really fucking important to do, you know. And I've learned that by watching other people come up, you know. And the hardest part in that is, like, you know, you always feel like you're next in line for the roller coaster, and you just keep going back like a little bit, like you never actually get on the roller coaster, like it's your turn soon but it's not your turn yet kind of mentality, you know. And that's like the hardest part of all of this, you know, because you don't want to go too far in the direction of like not performing enough so that you have time. You know, the idea is that after 2 or 3 years in the business, you should have 20 minutes ready to go, you know, 20 minutes that's airtight, good, solid, boom. So I think whatever you need to do to get to that without worrying about getting work is the important thing, you know, as a comic, like as an artist, which is why you do it, you know, because you're an artist, you're in it for the love, this is your deal, and you want to make people laugh, you know. Like, you can't go into it saying, I want to be a famous, huge comic. You say, I want to be a good comic, I want to be the best comic I can be. Dedicate the first few years to that while mixing in the things all on the side, you know, like your different, just little money makers here and there. That's not a day job, that is connected to performing, because sooner or later you're going to have to quit that day job, you know what I'm saying? And you need to have as many things lined up on the side to make sure that you can do that. Like, that's your safety net. It's one line connects to the next, that if you fall back, you have all of these lines that are connected that you've established that you can fall on. So that's what I'm trying to get now, is to that place where it's not just coming, you know, money from comedy would be fantastic. I think you need to look for recognition in comedy, like win some festivals, make a lot of friends, do all of that, you know what I mean? Have your network. Network is the most important fucking thing you'd ever have, but be making money on the side.
Okay, go ahead.
More popular comic, or like not more popular, but more well-rounded comic that isn't just depressed and totally saturated with this obsession of being funny, the funny guy, you know? Obviously be funny, or you'll be a shitty comic, but you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Mix it up as much as you can. And also have a huge cock would help, you know? So, thank God I have that.
In case you have to cook with it someday.
You might have to cook with it, you know? Or, you know, wave it around at a booker, promoter.
All right, dude. That's a good place to stop.
Yeah? Worked out well?
Yeah, man. Sorry. You have a website, right?
I do. I'm at stevewalshcomedy.com. I suck at Twitter. I have exactly 40-something followers because I'm too old to figure out how to use that shit. So if anyone wants to follow me, that'd be awesome. I'm at Steve Walsh _NYC. Hit that up. Actually, something worth plugging, too. Going to be doing the Apples and Oats show with my buddy Phil Gable on the September 27th. It's an important cause. It's a benefit show for New York Class, which is an organization kind of looking out for animals in the city. And this specific campaign is horse-drawn carriages and trying to get them banned. So, you know, if that's an important cause for you, come out, check that out. And if it's not an important cause to you, come out anyway, because you get to watch me riff for a long time, and it'll be good. So yeah, that's on the 27th, and check that shit out.
Cool, man. All right, thanks, dude.
All right.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
And so another episode draws to a close. Thanks very much for listening. Thanks to Steve for being a great guest. I am, of course, on Twitter at Josh Paladini, JOSHPALADINI. Muggies247 on YouTube, MUGGIES247. Yeah, man, stay tuned. More episodes coming, one a week. Love you a lot. Thanks again. Bye.